Hey, what's up everyone? It's Scott, Cornhole Collective. I'm here with another video finally. Now, before you watch the video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. That helps a lot. Head over to Instagram and follow me at Boards. So, I get a lot of questions through Facebook, through Instagram, through the YouTubes, and this video is going to help with one of the most common questions that I get. First, how do I make the legs even so the boards don't wobble? Sometimes people will ask exactly where do you put the bolt hole, or why are my legs too short? Why are they so long? All these different questions. So I'll address that here, and I can promise you that you'll be able to make your legs without even measuring anything. I promise. Alright, the next question that I get in the next video that I'll make is how did you make your router jig? If you've made boards before, you know that cutting the 6-inch hole to be perfectly circular is a challenge. If you've used a 6-inch hole saw, that can definitely be a challenge. Using a router can be a challenge too. So making yourself this router base plate template is a really great way to cut those holes, and you might already have some of the tools you need. And the last one, how do I prevent the stains from bleeding? There's a few simple tricks you can do to make sure that your stains don't bleed and you come out with some amazing designs. So those will be 3 separate videos. This one's going to be all about making your legs quick and easy so they don't wobble at all. After you've made your boards, you've attached your frames, you're ready to build some legs, you'll want to make sure you have the supplies that you need. So the first thing you'll need is, I like to use 2x3s for my legs. So I cut those to about 13 or 14 inches. 14 if you want to play it safe, just to make sure that the legs aren't too short, because you can't use a leg stock that's too short. And before this step starts, you've also got to drill the bolt holes in the end of the leg. And I like to round off the end of the leg as well. It just looks a little nicer, it'll turn freely. And then also you're going to make a template for yourself. Drilling the bolt holes in the exact same position on both sides of the frame is critical. You don't have to measure exactly where you're going to put those holes, but you've got to make sure that they're exactly the same position on both sides, or the legs are going to be at different angles and they're not going to close correctly. You won't be able to use a leg brace. It's going to look funny because the angles are going to be all off. One will be long, one will be short. It's going to be a mess. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do, is how to make this little template so you can always place your bolt hole exactly where it's supposed to go. You don't have to measure anything, and then you just grab that little jig, that little template, and drill your holes. You don't even have to think about it. Alright, so grab one of your legs that you've cut to about 14 inches. Now I'm going to place this with a clamp exactly where I want it to sit. So later, this is exactly where that leg will be placed, and then I'm going to match it for the other side of the board. Now after I've clamped that leg in place, I'm going to take a pencil and push it through the bolt hole in the leg and mark exactly where I want to drill the pilot hole for the bolt. Go ahead and drill that pilot hole using a small bit, a lot smaller than what you're going to actually drill for the bolts. And after you do that, you can grab just any piece of scrap that you want. This is just a thin piece of 1/4 inch oak, I think, that I was going to use for a project and I didn't, so I had it laying around, and it makes a perfect template. You could also use plexiglass or plastic, whatever you have. Now you're going to place that template so that it snugs up against the end of the board, and then drill right through the pilot hole that you just made into that template. You're going to use this for all of your frames, so those bolt holes are always placed in the exact same position on both sides of the board. As long as your frames are square, then your legs will be secure, they'll be stable. Alright, so now you'll see we take that to the other side of the frame, and then just drill our small pilot hole. We'll come back later with a 3/8 bit to drill out the bolt holes, but you always want to do a pilot hole first. Got a few other boards, a couple sets that I'm making legs for here, so I'm going to go ahead and drill these pilot holes on both sides of the other 3 boards. I don't really like to answer the question too much of exactly where do you put your bolt, because it's going to be different for everybody based on how wide your frame is, based on the rake that you want for your legs, how thick the leg is that you're using, whether or not you include those little blocks that I place in the top corners for a little extra space in there. So, you know, it's better if you figure out where you want the hole to be, and then you just duplicate it on all the frames, all sides of all the frames that you've got to make legs for. Alright, when you're ready to drill out your larger holes, I like to drill from the outside and the inside of the frame. That helps you to prevent from having a huge tear out that you've got to worry about covering up later or fixing or just dealing with. So if you use that larger bit through the pilot hole from the outside of the frame and then the inside of the frame, it tends to be a lot cleaner when you're ready to put the bolts in. Okay, so let's see how we did. So we're going to first place our stock for our legs in place. I like to just use some wing nuts. And then after placing that, we're going to mark where we're going to cut our legs. But first we've got to make sure that our angle's right. So first we're just going to kind of dry fit these in place. Alright, and there you can see that the legs are sitting at the exact same angle. They're plenty long enough, so now I can go back to, I think it was step 3, I want to say, in the previous series, of where you can measure and cut your legs using that hanging off the end of the table technique that you saw earlier. Alright, well I hope everybody enjoyed. If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'll probably get it a lot faster if you head over to Instagram and then you comment on one of my previous pictures there. So don't forget to follow the YouTube channel and then head over to Instagram and you can follow me there at Mossboards. Alright, good luck with your next build.